Never argue with foolish people, outsmart them instead. You know that feeling, someone says something completely wrong, completely disrespectful, or completely out of line, and everything inside you wants to fire back. You want to correct them. You want to prove your point. You want them to know that they are wrong and you are right. But here's the truth nobody teaches you: the moment you open your mouth to argue with a foolish person, you've already lost. Not because you don't have a good argument. Not because you don't know the facts. But because you stepped into a game that was never designed for you to win. Today, we are going to talk about something that will change how you move through the world. We are going to talk about why arguing with foolish people is one of the most draining, pointless, and self-defeating things a person can do, and more importantly, we are going to talk about what you do instead. Because outsmarting someone isn't about talking louder. It's not about having a better comeback. It's about knowing when to speak, when to stay silent, and how to move with so much intelligence and peace that no one can touch you. Stay with me. This is going to be worth every minute of your time. Before we go any further, if you are new here and you want more content like this, content that teaches you how to think clearly, move wisely, and live with real power, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you never miss a video. There are people who found this channel and told me it changed their entire perspective on life. I want that for you too. Subscribe. Let's grow together. Section 1: Understanding the foolish person. Let's start at the beginning. Who exactly is a foolish person? Now, I want to be careful here because foolish does not always mean unintelligent. Some of the most foolish people in the world have impressive degrees hanging on their walls. Some of them have money, titles, and influence. Foolishness is not about IQ. Foolishness is about a way of operating in the world. A foolish person is someone who is not interested in truth, they are interested in winning. They are not asking questions to learn, they are making statements to dominate. They are not listening to understand, they are waiting for their turn to talk. And most importantly, a foolish person has very little awareness of how their behavior affects others, and even less interest in developing that awareness. You will find foolish people everywhere. They are in your family. They are in your workplace. They are in your social circles. They comment on your social media posts. Sometimes they are complete strangers who feel entitled to your energy. And sometimes, if we are honest with ourselves, foolishness is something we ourselves have embodied at certain points in our lives, because we are all capable of operating from that place when we are afraid, insecure, or in pain. But here's what you need to understand: recognizing a foolish person is not about judging them. It is about protecting yourself. When you can clearly see that someone is operating from foolishness, you are no longer confused about what's happening. You are no longer trying to figure out why the conversation feels impossible. You know. And that knowledge gives you power. Section 2: Why arguing never works. Now let's talk about why arguing with this type of person is a complete waste of your time and energy. There is actually a saying that has been attributed to Mark Twain, and whether he said it or not, the wisdom in it is real: never argue with a fool. Onlookers may not be able to tell the difference. Think about that for a moment. When you get into a heated argument with someone who is operating from foolishness, from the outside, it looks like two people fighting. Nobody watching can tell which one is the wise person and which one is the fool. You have lowered yourself to the level of the argument, and at that level, intelligence, truth, and character become invisible. But beyond appearances, there is something even more important happening. When you argue with a foolish person, you are operating under a false assumption. You are assuming that if you just explain things clearly enough, if you just present the right evidence, if you just say it in the right way, they will hear you, they will understand, and they will change their position. This assumption is the trap. Foolish people are not arguing to find truth. They are arguing to win, to feel superior, to discharge their emotions, or to dominate you. No amount of logic, no amount of evidence, no amount of calm explanation is going to move someone whose entire goal is to not be moved. Their stubbornness is not a bug, it is the feature. So what happens when you keep trying? You get frustrated. You get louder. You get more emotional. And now you have handed them exactly what they wanted, your peace. You have given up your calm, your composure, your dignity, and for what? To try to convince someone who never intended to be convinced. This is why arguing with foolish people is not just ineffective, it is actively harmful to you. Every time you engage in that battle, you walk away depleted. You walk away with your mood disrupted, your thoughts scattered, your energy drained. And the foolish person? They often walk away feeling energized, because conflict is the environment they thrive in. You cannot win a game that is rigged against you. So stop playing. Section 3, The Power of Silence. Let's talk about the most underrated weapon in any intelligent person's arsenal, silence. Most people think silence is passive. They think that if you don't respond, you are being weak. They think that if you don't defend yourself, it means the other person was right. They think that staying quiet is the same as backing down. This could not be more wrong. Strategic silence is one of the most powerful positions a person can take. When someone is being foolish, when they are being provocative, when they are trying to pull you into an argument, and you respond with calm, composed silence, you do something that no argument can do. You reveal the situation for what it is. Think about it this way. When someone is yelling and provoking and you meet them with silence, you are not shrinking. You are refusing to hand them fuel. A fire cannot burn without oxygen. And a foolish person cannot sustain a fight without your participation. There's another dimension to this. Silence communicates confidence. When you don't feel the need to defend yourself, when you don't scramble to justify or explain or argue back, you are demonstrating that their opinion of you does not shake your foundation. That is power. Real, deep, unshakable power. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but won't they think I have nothing to say? Won't they think they won? Here's the thing. You are not responsible for what a foolish person thinks. You cannot control their narrative. If they want to believe their foolishness was wisdom, they were going to believe that regardless of whether you argued or not. You arguing does not change their inner story, it just costs you your peace. The people who matter, the wise ones, the ones watching who you actually care about impressing, they will see your silence for exactly what it is. Mastery. Section 4, Choosing Your Battles. Now, silence is not the answer to every situation. We need to talk about discernment, the wisdom to know when to engage and when to walk away. Not every person who challenges you is a fool. Not every disagreement is an argument to be avoided. Healthy debate, honest confrontation, and speaking truth to power are all important things. The skill is in knowing the difference. Here are 3 questions to ask yourself before you respond to someone. Is this person open to being wrong? If you sense that the other person is genuinely curious, genuinely listening, genuinely interested in finding truth, even if they are being blunt or even aggressive, then engagement is worth it. People who are open can be reached. That conversation has potential value. But if you look at the situation and you see someone who has completely closed their mind before the conversation even started, someone who is not asking but declaring, not listening but performing, that is your signal. There is no conversation to be had. There is only a performance they want you to participate in. Does anything real depend on this outcome? Sometimes you have to engage with difficult people because real stakes are involved. Your job, your relationships, your safety, your legal rights, these are things worth having hard conversations about. You can choose your approach and choose your words, but you don't always have the luxury of complete silence. But so much of what we argue about has no real stakes. Someone is wrong on the internet. Someone at a family gathering said something ignorant. A colleague made a snide comment. In these cases, ask yourself, if I say nothing right now, what do I actually lose? Most of the time, the honest answer is, nothing. Can I say what needs to be said in one sentence and then be done? There is a version of engaging with foolishness that is not an argument, it is a statement. A single, clear, calm sentence that says what is true, and then you stop. You do not justify. You do not elaborate. You do not defend. You say the thing once, and then you let it be. This is very different from arguing. Arguing is back and forth, escalating, exhausting. A statement is clean, deliberate, and final. You leave the other person with your words and you take back your energy. Learn to say things once. If you have to repeat yourself 10 times before someone hears you, the problem is not your delivery, it is their willingness to listen. And no amount of repetition fixes that. Subscribe reminder. Quick pause here. If this is speaking to something real in your life, if you've been in situations where you've argued with people and walked away feeling worse than when you started, this channel is for you. Subscribe if you haven't already. Every week I put out content to help you develop your mind, protect your energy, and move through life with more wisdom and less unnecessary pain. Tap subscribe and come back. I want you here. Section 5, Outsmarting Them, the Real Strategies. Now let's get into the heart of this. What does it actually look like to outsmart a foolish person instead of arguing with them? Outsmarting is not about revenge. It is not about making them look bad in front of others. It is not about winning a public spectacle. True outsmarting is about preserving yourself, your peace, your reputation, your energy, while still navigating the situation with skill. Here are the strategies that actually work. Control your nervous system first. This is foundational. Before you can outsmart anyone, you have to be in control of yourself. When someone provokes you, your nervous system responds. Your heart rate rises. Your thoughts accelerate. Your emotions want to take over. At that moment, most people let the emotion drive. They react. And the moment you react emotionally to a foolish person, you have given them control. The practice is simple but not easy. Pause before you respond. Take a breath, not performatively, but genuinely. Give your nervous system even 3 to 5 seconds to settle. In that pause, you shift from reaction to response. From being driven to driving. This is a practice you can actually build. Every time you are in a situation that would normally trigger you and you pause instead of reacting, you are training a new pattern. Over time, your default becomes composure. Use minimal language with maximum clarity. When you do choose to speak, say less than you feel. A foolish person's goal is often to pull more and more out of you, more words, more explanations, more emotional investment. Do not give it to them. Speak with precision. Use fewer words. Do not ramble or justify or explain yourself at length. A concise, clear statement carries more weight than a long defensive speech. Length signals anxiety. Brevity signals confidence. If they push you for more, you are allowed to say, "I've said what I need to say." And mean it. Let them exhaust themselves. One of the most powerful things you can do with a foolish, provocative person is simply let them run. People who operate from foolishness often cannot sustain their own energy without your reaction feeding them. When you stay calm, when you give very little back, when you do not escalate, they often end up escalating against themselves. They keep pushing and you keep standing still. You are not passive, you are strategic. You are watching them reveal themselves while you reveal nothing. And eventually, without the fuel of your reaction, they burn out. This requires patience. It requires emotional discipline. But it is one of the most elegant things you can do in a difficult interaction. Move without explaining yourself. This one is hard for a lot of people, especially those who value justice and fairness. When someone misrepresents you, when they spread a false narrative about you, when they accuse you of something untrue, every instinct in you wants to set the record straight. But here is what happens when you chase every false narrative about you. You signal that their words have power over you. You announce that you are rattled. And the more you try to explain yourself, the more guilty or defensive you can appear. Sometimes, the most powerful move is to continue moving forward as if the noise doesn't touch you. Let your actions speak. Let your results speak. Let the quality of your life and character be the response. People who are grounded in their identity do not need constant external validation. They do not need everyone to understand them or agree with them. They know who they are. And that internal knowing is a fortress that no foolish person's opinion can breach. Redirect the energy. Sometimes you are in a situation where you cannot simply walk away. You are in a meeting. You are at a family dinner. You are in a conversation that has to happen. In these moments, one of the smartest things you can do is redirect. Instead of engaging with the foolishness directly, you can ask a question that shifts the frame. What would you like to see happen here? What would solving this actually look like? These questions move the energy from conflict to problem solving, and a person who is purely interested in conflict will often not know what to do with that. You can also acknowledge without agreeing. I hear that you feel strongly about that. This is not submission, it is a graceful sidestep. You are not validating their content, but you are diffusing the emotional charge without a fight. Protect your reputation through consistency. Your best defense against a foolish person's attacks on your character is not an argument, it is a track record. Who you consistently are over time is more powerful than any single statement you could ever make. When you are known as someone who is calm, honest, reliable, and principled, individual attacks against your character have very little sticking power. The people who know you know better. And the people who don't know you will eventually see the evidence. This is a long game, and it requires patience. But it is the game that actually matters. Section 6, the emotional cost of constant arguing. I want to take a moment here to talk about what sustained engagement in unnecessary conflict actually does to a person. When you regularly argue with foolish people, when you regularly enter battles you cannot win, something happens to you over time. You become reactive. You start to expect conflict. Your nervous system stays in a low-grade state of alert. You become hypervigilant, always anticipating the next attack, the next provocation, the next person who is going to challenge you. This is exhausting. And it is not who you are meant to be. There is a cumulative drain that comes from constantly managing conflict. Every time you engage in a pointless argument, you spend energy, emotional energy, mental energy, physical energy. And that energy could have gone towards something that actually builds your life. Your goals. Your creativity. Your relationships with people who actually add to you. Your peace. A lot of people don't realize how much of their vitality is going toward defending themselves from people and situations that don't actually matter. They wonder why they feel depleted, why they feel stuck, why they can't seem to make progress, and the answer is that they are pouring their resources into battles that don't build anything. When you stop arguing with foolish people, you reclaim that energy. And you start to find that you have more capacity for the things that actually matter to you. Section 7, what this requires of you. Outsmarting foolish people instead of arguing with them sounds good in theory. But I want to be honest with you, it is not easy to implement. It requires something from you that not everyone is willing to give. It requires humility. You have to be willing to let some things go without a resolution. You have to be okay with someone walking away thinking they won a conversation, because you are playing a different game entirely, a game where winning is keeping your peace, not getting the last word. It requires self-awareness. You have to be able to catch yourself in the moment before you react. That means you have to know your triggers. You have to know which topics, which tones, which types of people get under your skin and push you toward reaction. That self-knowledge is what lets you pause instead of fire. It requires confidence. The reason most people cannot stay silent in the face of provocation is that they are not fully secure in their own sense of self. When someone says something about you that isn't true, the only reason it rattles you is if some part of you is uncertain about who you are. The more solidly you know yourself, the less power other people's words have over you. And it requires a long-term mindset. It is very natural to want immediate resolution, to want the person to understand, to want the situation to be settled right now. Outsmarting foolish people often means accepting that some things will not be resolved immediately, or ever. But you make peace with that because you know the long-term cost of constant engagement is too high. These are not things that happen overnight. They are practices. They are muscles you build over time. And every single time you choose composure over reaction, you get stronger. Section 8, Real-Life Examples. Let's ground all of this in something concrete. Think about the coworker who consistently undermines you in meetings. They make cutting remarks. They take credit for ideas. They challenge you in front of others in a way that feels designed to diminish you. The reactive response is to snap back, to defend yourself loudly, to call them out publicly. And maybe in that moment it feels satisfying. But what happens next? Now there is an ongoing battle. Now there is tension that affects your entire work environment. Now you are managing this conflict on top of everything else you have to do. The outsmart response. Document your contributions. Continue producing excellent work. Build relationships with people who can see your value directly. And when they try to undermine you in a meeting, you respond briefly and confidently, not defensively, and you move on. Over time, your work speaks. Over time, the pattern of their behavior becomes visible to others without you having to announce it. Think about the family member who always has a comment. Thanksgiving dinner, holiday gatherings, they have an opinion about your choices, your lifestyle, your weight, your relationship status. Every year it's something. And every year you find yourself in the same exhausting argument that changes nothing. What if instead, you decided, I am not doing this anymore? Not out of anger, not as a dramatic announcement, but simply as a quiet internal shift. You smile. You redirect. You give very little. You protect your inner world from their commentary while remaining physically present. You leave the gathering without having handed your piece over to someone who was never trustworthy with it. Think about online spaces. Someone comments on your work or your post with something dismissive or aggressive. Every fiber of your being wants to respond, to show them they are wrong, to defend yourself to their followers. But here is the truth about online arguments, they almost never change anyone's mind. They almost never end with someone saying, you know what? You made some great points, I've completely changed my position. What they do is create public spectacle, invite more negative attention, and cost you time and energy. Responding to nothing sometimes says more than any rebuttal ever could. Section 9, When you must speak. I want to make something clear. This is not a message to silence yourself in every situation. There are times when you absolutely should speak, when it is necessary, when the stakes are real, when your voice is needed. If you are being threatened, speak. If your rights are being violated, speak. If someone is harming a person who cannot protect themselves, speak. If silence would imply consent to something genuinely wrong, speak. The distinction I am drawing is between speaking because the situation demands it and speaking because your ego demands it. Between engaging because something important is at stake and engaging because you cannot tolerate the feeling of being challenged. Real courage is not always the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes real courage is the steady, composed presence that speaks when it matters and is quiet when it doesn't. Know the difference. Honor it. That is wisdom. Section 10, Building the Life That Makes Arguments Irrelevant. There is one more layer I want to add to this conversation, and it might be the most important one. When you are genuinely building a life that you love, when you are focused on your purpose, your growth, your relationships, your peace, most arguments become genuinely irrelevant to you. Think about someone who is deeply engaged with their work, deeply connected to people they love, deeply at peace with who they are. Does that person spend hours arguing with someone on the internet? Does that person carry a weeks-long grudge from a conversation at a dinner party? Does that person replay arguments in their head while trying to sleep? No. They are too occupied with what actually matters to them. Their energy has somewhere meaningful to go. This is not avoidance. This is abundance. When your inner world is rich, the noise of foolish people becomes genuinely less loud. Not because you are suppressing it, but because your attention is genuinely elsewhere. So here is my challenge to you: invest in building that life. Not just for the sake of outsmarting difficult people, but for your own sake. For the life you actually want to live. Figure out what matters to you and put your energy there. Build something. Love someone well. Learn something that changes how you see the world. Create. Rest. Think deeply. The less empty space you have in your inner life, the less room foolish people's words have to echo in it. Let me bring this all together. Foolish people are everywhere. They have always been everywhere. They are not going away. The question has never been whether you will encounter them, it's what you do when you do. Arguing with them does not teach them wisdom. It does not satisfy you in any lasting way. It does not build anything. It only costs you your time, your peace, your energy, your dignity. Outsmarting them looks like composure when they expect explosion. It looks like silence when they expect a fight. It looks like one clear, steady statement when they expect a debate. It looks like continuing to build your life when they expect you to stop and defend it. And perhaps most powerfully, it looks like knowing, deeply, unshakably knowing, who you are, so that their words have nothing to stick to. That is not weakness. That is mastery. You are not here to argue your way through life. You are here to live it, with wisdom, with purpose, with peace. Thank you for spending this time with me today. This conversation matters to me, and I hope it matters to you too. If this video helped you think differently about how you navigate difficult people and difficult situations, do me one favor: subscribe to this channel. Hit subscribe and turn on your notifications. I release new content every week on mindset, wisdom, and building a life with real depth and real peace. There is a community here of people who are serious about growing, and I want you to be part of it. Subscribe right now, and I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourself. Move wisely. And never let a foolish person take what cannot be bought back: your peace.